Our next speaker, Ben Steward, is a leader at G5, the top marketing technology company focused specifically on multifamily. Ben is G5's VP of Revenue, which means he knows how a wide range of multifamily owners are approaching their marketing strategies. Prior to joining G5 in 2015, Ben founded multiple companies, including one in New Zealand. Ben, the virtual stage is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining me. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to thank RETCON. It's pretty clear that technology is driving some disruption in our space, and no more clear than today with our current backdrop given COVID. I think that the pace of technology adoption is evolving rapidly and very, very timely for this conference. So thank you, RETCON. We appreciate holding down the fort when it comes to marketing technology. And very excited about today's topic. We're going to dive into identifying blind spots with intelligent marketing. So quick introduction, I'm Ben. I'm the VP of Revenue here at a company called G5. We've been in the marketing technology space in multifamily for pushing 13 years now. And pretty excited to walk through today's topic with you. And before I do, I want to start with a story. I think a few of us probably have Zoom fatigue. And I want to kick us off with a funny story. I'm used to a live audience and I'm used to the energy. So forgive me if I ask you to put your hand up. That's something I'm just used to given live conferences, and I'm still adjusting to the virtual world. Don't worry, I can't see you. But I do get a kick out of the idea of people sitting at home with their hand in the air. So quick show of hands for me. Who has made the dreadful mistake of sharing their screen by mistake, changing over and going to their emails while they're sharing their screen with an audience? I've personally done this. I was talking with my team recently, and I was so excited to tell them a topic that I flipped over to my Slack. I started pinging with the leader of the team, and I said, hey, is it okay if we share this with them? And before I sent the Slack, they said to me, absolutely, it's okay. And I was like, how did that happen? And it dawned on me that I was sharing my screen, and the whole team was giggling away as I was sending my Slack. And I tell that story because it's funny. I had a similar experience with my CEO just recently, where we were on a Zoom call and we were talking about friction in the apartment buying experience or the apartment shopping experience. And while we were having this really good in-depth conversation, our CEO was sharing his screen, and all of a sudden he flipped tabs and he was shopping for a Tesla. And he went through 2 or 3 stages and everyone was kind of quiet. And eventually I said, Dan, go to the Model X. And he smiled and said, Ben, 3 clicks and I'm entering my credit card details. Now, granted, he wasn't actually shopping for a Tesla, but he was showing us how seamless the experience was. Choose your exterior, choose your interior, enter your credit card details. And that's what our consumers, our renters today have become accustomed to. And it was a really valuable exercise for us. You will see the same thing on Uber Eats. It's incredibly user-friendly and incredibly easy to press a button, and within 15, 20 minutes, you have food at your doorstep. And these same consumers, these same renters are the ones shopping for apartments. And it's very, very clear that renter expectations have changed. They have been completely spoiled rotten by Uber, by Amazon, by Tesla, and those shopping experiences. And it's very clear also that we're in the age of the hyper-informed customer. And they're expecting fast, frictionless, personalized experiences that are instant, that are always on. And I wonder if anyone on the call has been through the apartment shopping experience recently. It's a little bit friction-filled. To get to this step was 7 or 8 clicks. To get through the application was another 16 steps. And if you think about this and distill this, these same consumers that are used to these beautiful experiences on other brands are the same consumers trying to rent apartments. And I think we will all agree that there's plenty of friction in this journey. So the question is why? Like, this experience is ripe for disruption, but what's holding us back? I think the answer is that data is completely disparate and siloed. If you think about this, we've got revenue management systems, property management systems, CRMs and lead management systems, marketing data that we need to aggregate across Google, Bing, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We've got phone calls, we've got form fills, we've got reputation. And every single one of these lives in a disparate data silo. And data is really quickly becoming our currency. And data is how we're going to be able to bring these journeys and these stories together. So again, I think we'd all agree that marketing matters more than ever. Given our COVID backdrop, buyer behavior has changed, consumers' expectations have changed, and marketing really is this conduit between your company and the renter. And the platform that you choose for your marketing, the data that you're aggregating behind your marketing, is really this conduit between your company and everything that you do with your company, your property management software, your operations, your sales, and the most important part, which is the customer, the renter. All right, so let's shift gears into blind spots. What blind spots? Happy you asked. We're going to dive into that. So we've got three main topics today that we want to unpack a little bit. We'll get a little bit technical. We'll have a little bit of fun. We'll go deep. We'll come back up. The one we're going to start with is that data just simply right now is largely incorrect. Number two, data is missing and siloed. Number three, renter behavior is changing rapidly. Let's jump into number one. Okay, I can't tell you how many customers I've worked with, property management companies, where we've really gone deep into performance and we've unpacked the CRM data that's living there today. And this is one that always gets me. Source, drive-by. Even better, source, balloons. Better than that again, source, apts.com, apartments.com, apt.co. That leasing agent was having a busy day. apt.co was borderline lazy. And while we've got all this information, it's so difficult to aggregate this information when we're relying on human data entry. And similarly, in the tech world, if you look at what is a pretty complex topic called attribution, historically, we've looked at this overly simplistic attribution model where a disproportionate amount of traffic is classified as direct. Here's the problem with that. There's no one that I know of that started their apartment shopping experience, went to the search engine and said, www.theray.com. It just doesn't happen that way. And so direct as a big source of traffic is actually misleading. And so that leads us into our first kind of deep topic around attribution. Attribution's a complex one. So stay with me here a little bit. We'll go deep, we'll go technical, and we'll come back up for air. Very, very different attribution models. And the industry at large today uses what we call a last touch attribution model. With last touch, it's very, very limited with what it can tell you. It will tell you that last referring source before the interaction happens. The interaction being the phone call or the form fill, that action that you really want to capture. The problem with a last touch attribution model is that it will never give credit to how that customer first found you. So think about display network advertising. Typically, it's a brand awareness campaign. You will never see display network advertising show up as a contributing source if you're using a last touch attribution model. Similarly, think about the first touch attribution model and think about remarketing. A first touch attribution model will tell you how someone very first found you, but it will never give credit to a remarketing campaign. And so all of a sudden, when you really think about this and really distill this, we're using overly simplistic methods today. Now, you've started to see things like linear multi-touch, time decay multi-touch. Each of those have their pitfalls as well. So let's go a little bit deeper here. Traditional multi-touch attribution is overly simplistic. It's a step advanced from first touch or last touch. But if you look at a simplistic multi-touch attribution model, for example, a linear multi-touch attribution model, it will give equal credit to every touch point along the way. Well, that's one way of doing it. A better way of doing it is what we call a probabilistic multi-touch attribution model. So stay with me here because this gets a little bit complex. With probabilistic multi-touch attribution models, one of which actually known as a Markov attribution model, you can actually start completely flipping how you look at attribution. And you can actually start looking at contribution and which paths played a contributing role to the overall volume of leases or leads. And therefore, if you removed one of those contributing roles, what would the overall impact be? That starts getting complex. But when you start looking at the data in a very, very different way, you start getting a very, very different story. As an example, when we deployed our probabilistic multi-touch attribution models, we started seeing, whereas historically you'd attribute 1 lead to PPC for the month, 2 leads to PPC for the month, 10 leads to PPC for the month, what we found was that PPC was actually contributing to over 25% of the overall leads generated, but it was somewhere along that journey. And if you measured the removal effect of PPC to the overall volume of leads generated, it had a really material impact. But we've been doing it wrong. We've been saying we spent X in March, we got Y in March, and that's it. Another interesting stat point, 21.9 days from first website observation to interaction. People are browsing. They're doing their shopping online now. And we haven't ever been able to see, when did they visit the website? When did they leave? When did they come back? What did they do? What did they do before conversion? If you look at the CRM data, you'll notice someone physically toured, someone called our property, someone sent a lead. But there is so much rich information about that lead and about that journey pre-interaction that the CRM just doesn't have visibility into. Another really interesting stat, I think we understate the importance of SEO still today. 59% of prospects used organic search to relocate a property website after their first visit. Think about that. People are shopping, they're doing their diligence online, they're then using brand recall to do a branded search term on which they're expecting you to show up organically. We never knew that before. We never knew the secondary and tertiary journeys. Very, very interesting, the light that complex attribution models are able to shine on this customer journey now. So let's shift gears a tiny bit. Another really important thing to consider here is what we consider a lead or an interaction. What we've been able to do now with technologies, advanced technologies like machine learning, is actually start listening to phone calls. So leveraging machine learning, we're able to listen to, transcribe, tokenize phone calls, and actually determine with an incredible degree of accuracy who actually has high intent to rent. Is that local campaign actually generating qualified leads? Or is it actually the nationwide campaign that's generating qualified leads? Historically, we've looked at this campaign received this many phone calls, or this campaign received this many form fills. And when you actually put a whole new layer of data on top of that, which is which campaigns were driving qualified marketing leads, it completely flips the story upside down. And the other thing it does is completely removes the guesswork. Should I do branded? Should I not do branded? Should I do Facebook? Should I not do Facebook? Should I do Google bid adjusted to mobile? Should I not? With this insight, you're able to see exactly where your qualified leads are coming from. And you can actually automate the output of that. Pretty clever stuff. Okay, so part of our promise here throughout the presentation is to try and distill this into kind of meaningful actions for you. This topic is complex. Marketing technology is getting incredibly sophisticated. And so we want to just distill every topic down into a couple of nice takeaways for you. Action item number 1 for consideration. Measure contribution. Don't get led astray by overly simplistic attribution models. Where you put your next marketing dollar is how you drive spend efficiency. Be sophisticated and demand sophisticated from your vendors. The second action item, leverage machine computing power. Machines now can process data at just exponential rates, by far and away more so than humans can process data. And when you think about the decisions being made and the spend being made on apartments today through advertising specifically, you have to be leveraging machine learning technology to compute probabilistic multi-touch attribution models at a rate that humans couldn't possibly. And the results that we're starting to see come out of this technology are surprising even me, and I've been in the space for a while now. Okay, so the third action item, demand a new layer of data. Demand an understanding of, okay, that's great, showing me how many phone calls this campaign generated, but how many of those were qualified? Demand that data from your marketing provider because they're making optimizations based on that data. And so it is a very fair request for you to say, I don't want to optimize to residents. I don't want to optimize to landscapers who are asking for my business. I really want to optimize to people with high intent to rent because that's how I'm going to spend my marketing dollar efficiently. Whew, okay. That was blind spot number one. That was a lot. Let's take a breath before we go into blind spot number two. So blind spot number two is that data is missing and siloed. And we touched on this at the top of the presentation. I don't think it will be a surprise to anyone. It is very, very difficult to operationalize data across so many different technologies. And as more and more technologies come to light and we adopt more and more technologies, finding a marketing provider that's able to operationalize across those different platforms is incredibly important. Yet you still want best in class. And so providing a best in class technology stack means being Switzerland. You have to play nicely with everyone. You have to be able to have your conduit to your renter be a best in class marketing provider. Yet it needs to integrate seamlessly with multiple different CRMs, with multiple different property management systems, with every revenue management system. You need to pull in reputation management data. You need to be able to measure the impact of your social campaigns. And so you need to start demanding that your marketing provider is operationalizing the data. Technology in this space is getting very advanced very quickly. CDP is a term that you'll hear pretty frequently from here. And it's called the customer data platform. And customer data platforms allow you to marry unique identifiers across all of these disparate data silos and actually start really surfacing sophisticated user journeys. So what we know about the user journey is that it's on average 20 digital touch points to conversion. 20 different digital touch points to conversion. When you think about all of those touch points, that is pretty remarkable. And it's pretty complex to start matching those journeys together to know where to put your next marketing dollar. And again, if you think about the rich data we're able to capture on the renter before interaction, think about this. We're able to capture the search query. We're able to know, is that their first time to the website or is it their second or third time to the website? We're able to know user behavior. How did they navigate the website? What was their click path? Where did they spend the most time? Were they interested in the 2-bedroom unit with the view amenity that was pulling through? Were they interested in the specials? We've captured all of this rich information on the renter before they even pick up the phone to call, which is the one touch point that shows up in your CRM. So think about just the importance of marketing technology today. Shifting gears a tiny bit, I think it's important also to note the way we've been looking at timelines is flawed. We touched on this a little bit again at the start of the presentation, but think about this. From first website observation to conversion, we know is about 21, 22 days on average. We see that go up to 60 days. We see it come down to like same day decision making. But on average, your advertising spend in April has an influence in May. It has an influence in June. And so the overly simplistic model that we've used to look at how we're saying we spent X in May and we got Y in May needs to be revisited. So reputation management, I can't tell you how many customers I've had good conversations with in this space. Reputation management's vital. Given COVID again, physical shopping has slowed down. And so people are relying more and more and more on the reputation of that property. We've had instances where we're driving a huge volume of what we consider to be marketing qualified leads to properties. And yet we've had this disconnect with overall conversions. And the more and more we've probed, the more and more we've been able to distill this down into kind of these contributing factors, one of which being reputation. If you have a 1-star review today, no matter how good your advertising efforts can be, you're going to lose visitors. People are going to read that review and decide maybe that's not the apartment for me, and they're going to continue their shopping journey. All right, again, that was a fair amount. So let me distill this into a few action items. Consider the rich information that we can gather on users pre-interaction. Think about your marketing providers today and whether or not they're able to capture that information. Consider your measurement cadence as well. Consider the lag effect of your January spend on February conversions. Consider also not waiting until you have trending 60-day exposure before you deploy your advertising spend. And I think the third one is advertise what's really for rent. When you can connect disparate data silos, you can actually connect your floor plan availability to the ad text that shows in the Google search engine. Think about that. If you have no 2-bedroom availability, you have the ability to automatically turn off 2-bedroom floor plan type campaigns in AdWords. That starts getting you spend efficient. That's our third action item on blind spot number 2. We're throwing a lot at you today. So we're going to go into quite a fun topic. Renter behavior is changing rapidly. No more rapidly than right now. We're in Oregon. G5 is headquartered in Bend, and Oregon just went into another 2-week lockdown. And we're starting to see these really crazy shifts and rapid shifts in consumer behavior. People are adapting to working from home. Searches for webcams up 300%. Searches for lap desks up 100%. Bread machines. I don't think I could think of anything better than sitting at home while smelling fresh bread baking in the kitchen. We are watching this really rapid shift. And renters are curious. Searches for virtual are up 25%. Mobile searches for the term best have grown over 80%. Best apartments for rent in San Diego. Renters are also demanding. 74% of users agree that they look for the most relevant information regardless of the company providing that information. This is such a rapid shift. This will be no surprise. Renters are also impatient. The latest study that I saw said that you have 6 seconds to capture an apartment renter on your website before they lose interest. 6 seconds. That's shorter than a goldfish. Okay, some more interesting stats here. 50% of consumers aged 18 to 34 expect same-day delivery. We've seen a 150% increase in travel searches for today and tonight, and a 3 times increase in open now searches. Our consumers are being spoiled by brilliant shopping experiences, and they're expecting instant gratification. And we need to tailor our approach to that as aggressively as we possibly can. Blind spot number 3. This is an interesting one. So we did a study with Google in about 2018, I believe it was. And we saw some really interesting shifts. At that time, we saw 35% of people physically touring one apartment building before making their decision. 67% of people physically touring 3 apartments before making their buying decision. Think about how much that behavior has shifted this year. Your online representation of your asset is your representation of your asset. Physical touring is a thing of the past. People are expecting to be able to view a virtual tour, to be able to really sophisticatedly navigate that website and gather all of the rich information that they're looking for their buying experience. We've seen similar trends in the automotive industry. Buyers used to shop 5 dealerships 10 years ago. They're shopping less than 2 dealerships today. And today, 2020 today, my guess is that most of that shopping is done online. We have to keep pace with these shifts. One platform that we've been measuring and monitoring very closely is YouTube. People are consuming more and more online media, and YouTube and videos are right at the top of that. And some interesting stats that we've seen: an 8% higher search conversion volume after viewing an ad on YouTube, a 3% higher search conversion rate after viewing an ad on YouTube, and a 4% lower search CPA after viewing an ad on YouTube. And so while we're watching this like direct lead generation through YouTube still isn't quite there in terms of metrics that we would recommend to our customers, we're watching these intangibles shift. And obviously Google and YouTube are tied at the hip. And so we're starting to see some of these kind of inferential statistics start kind of changing our perspective on the YouTube platform. Okay, again, we've thrown a lot at you. So let's just distill this into a couple of really tangible takeaways. Measure demand. Your marketing demand, your pre-interaction demand, is your leading indicator of property performance. Don't just look at the CRM. Look at your overall funnel. If you can get a picture of demand and you can reasonably infer that the user journeys that are resulting in leases, then you can reasonably infer how big your demand funnel is. Connect the dots. It's remarkable knowing how much rich information we have pre-interaction. The third one, CDPs, automation, probabilistic multi-touch attribution. These things can sound daunting. They don't have to be. Find the right marketing partner that can represent you in all of these things, that have taken time to innovate in this space and that have taken time to really operationalize data in this space, because they're the ones that are going to be driving rapid innovation, that are going to be able to keep pace with the shifting consumer needs. Whew. Okay, that was a lot, but I want to circle back to this one comment. The apartment shopping experience is ripe for disruption. And the marketing provider, the marketing technology provider that you shop for today needs to be able to keep pace with that disruption, if not lead that disruption. I think that's hard to argue with. And it's time to make marketing your operational advantage. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Thank you, RETCON, for the amazing conference. And we hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, Ben. That was stupendous. Feel free to connect with Ben on the platform if you want to talk marketing tech.